This presentation is designed to provide an explanation of the North Carolina Conservation Partnership, how it continues to evolve over time, how the partnership is interconnected, and the roles and responsibilities of each partner. This schematic of the partnership was dismantled in Module Number 1 and is being rebuilt as a way to achieve a better understanding of its complexity and purpose. In Module Number 1, we moved chronologically from the late 1920s to 1937 with the creation of the Soil Conservation Service, local soil conservation districts, and the State Committee. This laid the foundation on which to build a strong and complex conservation partnership and conservation program for the state of North Carolina. Module Number 2 will cover the years 1937 through 1971 and is entitled The Formative Years. With a strong foundation in place, it is now time to build on that foundation. These years include the creation of the North Carolina Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts, the National Association of Conservation Districts, the evolution of the State Committee, and the addition of the first staff to support conservation districts. With the creation of local soil and water conservation districts in 1937, the next logical step for these districts was to organize themselves to increase their effectiveness and to create more consistency within their program. As a result, the North Carolina Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts was established in 1944, only 7 short years after the first district was established. Now, for the first time, there was a statewide organization whose goal was to create a statewide effort among state, federal, and local conservation partners. The relationship of the association with the local districts, the SCS, and the State Committee is not statutorial, but nonetheless very important. The association is a 501c3 organization and not an entity of government. So now in 1944, we have added another piece to the conservation partnership puzzle, with the addition of the North Carolina Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts. Again, note the difference between the relationships that exist within the partnership, some by virtue of state statute and others less formal. As mentioned earlier, the Conservation District is the hub of the partnership, and because of this, all members of the Conservation Partnership are connected to each other through the local Conservation District. This is very important and adds significant strength to the partnership, but at the same time adds to the partnership's complexity. From the late 1930s until the early 1940s, conservation districts were being established all across the United States. Now the districts are organized in many states into statewide associations, including North Carolina. The next logical step was for districts to organize nationally, in keeping with Dr. Bennett's vision for soil conservation to become a national concern and focus. At this particular time in history, some 1,600 districts had been established in 48 states, and many of those districts had organized into state associations. In 1946, 32 local districts from across the United States met in Washington, D.C. and established the National Association of Conservation Districts. NACD was organized to deliver a unified message on national conservation matters, and for the first time, the stage was set for involvement of local conservation districts at the local, state, and national levels. It is very important to note that state associations and the National Association were all created by the initiative of local soil conservation districts. This is why the conservation movement and program in the United States is truly locally driven. Now we are up to 1946 and have added yet another piece to the partnership puzzle, the National Association of Conservation Districts, or NACD. Notice the pattern of how members of the partnership are connected. At this point in time, the only statutorily connected relationship continues to be between local conservation districts and the State Committee. All other relationships are less formal and exist because of the local districts. Only 1 year later, in 1947, the partnership continues to evolve with a change in the makeup of the State Committee. By state statute, the State Committee is increased from 3 to 6 members, and at the same time, a stronger connection between the State Committee, local districts, and their association is established. Yes, this change added 3 members to the state committee, but most importantly, state statute required these 3 individuals to be officers within the association, meaning they're also local conservation district supervisors, and were elected to their position by the Association of District Supervisors. Therefore, a much stronger connection between the state committee and local conservation districts was established. So now in 1947, we have added 3 members to the state committee that include the president of the Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts, the past president, and the first vice president. The original 3 members of the state committee remain: the director of the Agricultural Extension Service, director of the experiment stations, and the state forester. Now the state committee is comprised of 6 members. It is interesting to note, and rather amazing in fact, that the state committee provided direction and oversight of the state's conservation districts without staff for 22 years. But that began to change in the very late 1950s and into the mid-60s. In 1959, the North Carolina legislature appropriated funds to hire an administrative officer for the state committee, and then in 1965, funds were appropriated to add an assistant administrative officer. This staff support to the state committee is the forerunner of the staff now provided by the Division of Soil and Water Conservation. In 1961, a somewhat subtle change was made, as the state committee's name was changed to the North Carolina Soil and Water Conservation Committee, clarifying its purpose and raising the exposure for soil and water conservation at the state level. Now from 1959 into the mid-1960s, significant evolution of the conservation partnership can be seen. Not only has the state committee been renamed, but a very important statutory connection has been added between the association and the newly named North Carolina Soil and Water Conservation Committee, that being General Statute 143. That statutory connection is there because of the change in membership of the committee to include 3 officers from the association. The very important change to the partnership is the addition of staff to support the duties and responsibilities of the Soil and Water Conservation Committee, a forerunner of additional staff expansion which will be seen later. Also notice how the connection between the newly created staff, local conservation districts, and the Soil and Water Conservation Committee is by General Statute 139. This is extremely important to understand. One point of confusion regarding the partnership is raised by the question, why can staff provided by the state of North Carolina provide direct assistance to local districts and the Soil and Water Conservation Committee, but are greatly restricted by the assistance they can provide to the North Carolina Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts? The answer to that question can be seen here. It is because of the state statutory connection that exists between the district, the state staff, and the committee through GS 139. The association was not created by state statute, is not an entity of state government, and therefore the relationship between the association and state staff is different. 1971 brought about another very important change in the makeup of the membership of the North Carolina Soil and Water Conservation Committee. This change, by virtue of amendment to GS 143, significantly changed the makeup of the committee. In addition to the 3 officers of the association, 3 members nominated by the North Carolina Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts from its own membership and representing the 3 major geographical regions of the state were added, replacing the original 3 positions on the committee: the Director of Agricultural Extension Service, Director of the Agricultural Experiment Stations, and State Forester. In addition, this general statute amendment added 1 at-large member to be appointed by the governor. This change brought the membership of the committee to 7, as it is today. As has been seen, 6 of the 7 members of the North Carolina Soil and Water Conservation Committee are selected through actions of the association. These potential members to the committee are made as recommendations to the governor and do not become voting members or seated members of the committee until formally appointed by the governor. The appointment of the at-large member to the committee results from an independent action by the governor and may not have a direct connection to the association or to a local conservation district. In fact, that person is not required to be a soil and water supervisor, but typically is. The governor also appoints the chairperson of the committee, but the committee elects its own vice chair. So now in 1971, we have a North Carolina Soil and Water Conservation Committee that has a completely different look and feel from the original state committee, which was established by state statute in 1937. As we've discussed, the committee now has 7 members, 6 that are recommended to the governor for appointment after having been elected as an officer by the association, president, past president, and first vice president, along with the 3 supervisors who were elected by the association to serve on the committee and represent the 3 geographical regions of the state. The 7th member of the committee is the at-large member, and that person is appointed by the governor through an independent action that is separate from any action by the association. This committee structure continues today, but we will learn of an important name change for the committee in Module 3. Chronologically, we have reached 1971 and have completed the formative years of the Soil and Water Conservation Partnership. This included the creation of the North Carolina Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts, the creation of the National Association of Conservation Districts, the evolution of the State Committee to the North Carolina Soil and Water Conservation Committee, and very importantly, the addition of the first staff to provide direct support to the districts. Now we have completed Module 2 of 4. Module 3 will cover the growth years of the Soil and Water Conservation Partnership, which will include an increase in the district employee numbers, reorganization of state government, and the evolution of SCS to NRCS. During these growth years, we will also see how soil and water conservation grew to a higher level of prominence at the state and local levels.